All right, so I'm at the point that I've kind of had just about enough, right? I've had just about enough with all the political garbage, all the nonsense, and the embarrassment that our political officials are actually bringing to our nation. I firmly believe America is the greatest nation in the world. Absolutely do. I firmly believe in our country. I believe in our our system. I believe in what our nation stands for, which unfortunately far too many people don't even understand anymore. And I honestly blame the leaders. And the reason I do that is because honestly, they're people. They're people just like anybody else, and they're going to make mistakes just like anybody else, right? You, me, we all make mistakes every single day. But, the big problem is they're up on a platform. They're up on a platform representing us, right? They're supposed to be our governors, our senators, our representatives, our president, our vice president, members of Congress. These people are supposed, they're supposed to be the voice of the people, but they're not the voice of the people. They're the voice of their party. At the end of the day, what really happens, what's really going on, what's really been going on more and more over the last two presidencies, to be honest. During the last two presidencies, during Biden and Trump's administrations, both of them have caused much division. They did. Trump wasn't a politician, and he didn't know how to play politics. I mean, to be honest, he just didn't. He's a businessman, and so he looked at everything from a business aspect, which isn't bad, but it's not always good either. It's just different. I mean, that's what it is. Whether you like him or don't like him, let's just be honest. Let's look at this completely objectively, and let's not get bogged down by your opinion, because that's what we all do. We all get bogged down by our opinions. You do it, I do it, we all do it. Let's take our opinions out. Let's really try to make an effort to just step back and look at this completely objectively and say the reality is that Trump, as a businessman, handled the country not as a politician would. Not necessarily bad, but again, not necessarily good either. It's just different. And there were certain things he did that were good, and there were certain things that I believe he did that were bad. He was looking at things from a different perspective. Then Biden stepped in. Biden's looking at things from his own perspective. And the thing is a lot of people dislike Biden. A lot of people dislike Trump. And the problem with all these people dislikes is there was a time when social media was less prevalent. There was less division over this whole pandemic, which honestly started a lot of this, that fueled a lot of the frustration and the anger and the bitterness, because people sat at home just bickering to one another instead of actually doing anything with their lives and figuring out, hey, what's the best way to stay connected? Let's find the best way to complain about everything that's going on. That was the biggest setback and downfall that came of the pandemic. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, that's how I'll break that down. The biggest thing is there was so much anger, bitterness, frustration, people who disagreed about how it was handled, how it should have been handled, how it could have been, and everything. And everybody wanted to point to their guy, the guy they liked, and say, hey, this guy did it right, this guy did it wrong. Even though on multiple different scenarios, both guys were handling it the same damn way. And then you look all across the board, right? You look, like I said, the state representatives, governors, mayors, cities. There's so many people that were literally, at the end of the day, handling it in such similar fashion and agreeing with one another how to handle it. Yet, the ones you liked did it right, and the ones you didn't like did it wrong. So ultimately, people picked and chose based on the person, not based on their actions. People like Trump because they like Trump and people hate Trump because they hate Trump. It has nothing to do with his actions. You can sit there and tell someone who loves Trump all the bad things that he got wrong. They don't care. They have a justification and a reason for all of it. You can say go to the people who hate Trump and show them all the good things he did, and to them it doesn't outweigh the bad. Honestly, I'll tell you, he did the best he could. He did. He did the best he could. He did the best he knew how, and in my opinion, his biggest setback was just continuing to act like a little child, opposed to a politician or a businessman. He acted like a child when the election didn't turn out the way he wanted it to. That's not good for our nation. That's not good for our country. And the reality is that so many politicians are choosing to not set an example for our country and stand on what's right and what's good, but they're choosing to act like children right now. They're choosing to take turns attacking one another and bashing one another instead of finding ways to propel this nation forward, to lift this country up, to figure out what's the next best step. Sometimes it's happened in our nation several times where we've seen hardships in the economy. We've seen wars. We've seen many different things. There was soldiers. During the Civil War, there were soldiers who fought for the Confederacy. And when the Union won, they joined the Union. And they joined the Union Army to fight alongside the men that they were aiming their gun at moments ago. They disagreed on things, but when it was time for the war to be over, it was time for the war to be over. It didn't happen that way with everyone, but it did happen with several. It happened with lots. At the end of the day, these people fighting, these soldiers, politicians, the different people in position to be voices for our nation, they should be fighting for the greater good of our nation. And they should be able to set aside their differences. Yeah, okay, they're going to disagree on things. Absolutely. They're going to disagree. This is best because, that is best because, this is best because. They're always going to have a reason to validate why. But the reason can never be, well, this is better because of what he did. But that's what they do a lot. Well, this is the wrong thing to do because of what she did or he did. And that's how they look at it. That's how frequently it's handled. It's dealt with and handled based on a comparison. Like some kind of ticker. That it's like, this is a tally marks. This is what I deem as worst. And this is what I deem as best. So therefore, it doesn't matter what's really right or wrong. It matters what the other guy said or did. And because the other guy was doing something wrong, therefore it justifies me being where I'm at. Or it justifies the person that I like. Hey, I like this politician for this office, or I like this person or this candidate for that office. And I like them and I support them because I dislike what the other guy did. Does that mean that person's best? Not necessarily. But that's what happened. Republicans fought against Trump. Democrats fought against Biden. I mean, and the reality is they chose not because they thought the other candidate was better. They just disliked the candidate with their party. Now, on some level, I want to say, well, you know what, good for you. At least you had a brain to think. Because for countless decades, it's like, well, this city, this state, this division, this district, whatever, is going to be won by red or blue because we know that they all lean red or blue. It's like that. It's that simple, right? It's always been that simple. And it's like to think that they could go against their own candidate. It's like on some level you want to say, hey, that's good. That's progress. But sadly enough, in this instant, it wasn't progress. It was because the candidates were so divisive that they weren't making progress. They just despised the candidate that was chosen by their party. To me, that's sad that we've gotten to that level where we just hate a candidate so much, it doesn't matter the good they can do. People despise Trump so much and not care about what he's done, what he's capable of. People despise Biden and not consider what he's done or he's capable of. They've both done things that I absolutely disagree with. They've both done things that I think are not good for our nation. They've both done things that I think they made progress. I think they made progress for certain things. I think they both did. But I remember my seventh grade geography class and history class when I understood and learned the checks and balances and the balance of the systems in the party, and how that at the end of the day, the president is more of a figurehead than he actually is the guy making the choices. Every single executive order, except for emergency state of war, can be overturned by Congress. Now, Congress, sadly, it happened in multiple presidencies. A Democrat-heavy Congress denied and declined great moves by a Republican president because they weren't going to let the other team get a good law passed. Same thing happened. A Republican-heavy Congress did the same to the Democrats. I'm not going to let a Democratic president pass something that's good for our nation. We're going to hold on to that for our guy. Republicans and Democrats both alike have done this. And it's sad. It's really tragic. I steer clear of politics a lot because I think it's so divisive and it's so ugly. And people just use it to attack one another. But I felt this on my heart today as I just feel like people need to wake up. Wake up to what's really going on. Politicians are using slang. Politicians are cussing. Politicians are yelling and screaming and embarrassing themselves. And then this is seen by the entire world, that those are the representatives of our nation. Those are the representatives of you and me. And that's not me. I'm not out there screaming. I'm not out there swearing. I'm not out there using slang when I'm trying to put a policy into place. I'm someone, if you've watched my videos long enough, you know I use slang. I have slang in my dialect, absolutely. But I also took government in college, and we had to go through this whole practice when we were a lobbyist. There was lobbyists, there was senators, there was senators, representatives, there was lobbyists, and everybody had to petition to try to see what it was like to be a lobbyist and how to get a bill on a ballot and how to get a bill passed, right? It was just this whole process of us learning how the system worked, right? I absolutely 100% used educated English when I lobbied, when I did this. And then I actually participated in the student government at the Austin Community College. And when I participated in student government and when I had to give speeches and things like that, I didn't use slang. I used proper English and spoke to people as if I was an educated man. Didn't use words like woke, that honestly is completely misused today. It has been hijacked by politicians and people who don't even understand what it means. The word woke, the word woke was about racial injustice. It was a slang term coined to spread awareness that people were still being oppressed by their race. Now, I agree that some places actually still deal with racial oppression, and some places have actually grown past it. It's unfortunate that some people still deal with it. But the fact that other people have chosen to hijack the word woke and attach it to so many other things, and then the politicians choose to chime in and grab onto this and say, I'm going to spread this word also. When you're giving a political speech and you use a word like that, to me, you lose all your credibility and you sound like an idiot. Because you don't sound like you actually know what's going on. My politicians should know what's going on. My representative, my House representative, my senators, my governor, my mayor. These people should know what's going on. They should know the things that are happening in our community. They should know that what that word actually meant They should know that it's been hijacked by others, and they shouldn't throw it around carelessly and not know what it means and make slogans based on it. I mean, I'm sorry. It spreads ignorance. You people are spreading ignorance. And the real sad part is how many of you are Ivy League students. You're alumnus from Ivy League schools, and yet you spread ignorance. As I feel like, honestly, some of it's intentional. I don't believe that it's accidents. I think these people are smart enough to know what they're doing, and they're just jumping on the bandwagon. They're trying to get sound bites. They're trying to rock the boat to get attention. They don't care how they do it. They don't care if they do it by valuable means, or they don't care if they lose their dignity or respect along the way. I've said it before, most politicians don't get to that level without getting their hands dirty. And that right there is a prime example. Just getting their hands dirty. And that's a very small level of dirt. Some of them get real filthy. It's sad. It's sad what's going on in the world, and it's sad what's going on in our nation, and it's sad that instead of trying to bring people together, there's been multiple presidents and multiple politicians that, although I didn't always agree with how they approach things, I didn't agree with their platform, I didn't agree with certain things they said or did, but they really did try to bring people together. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what America's most supposed to be about is, yeah, we can be different, but together. Different, but together. People don't want to bring people together. People want to judge people who are different. People want to cast people out who are different. You're a Republican, you're evil. You're a Democrat, you're evil. You're the problem. You're the problem. You're the problem. Everybody's the problem but you. Man. Very profound speech, or dissertation was written. 2 words. 2 words. The dissertation said nothing more. It was a great writer, very eloquent writer. Could have written all these different things, but instead what he chose to write for his dissertation was 2 words. I am. Now it sounds like not very profound, but when you go back and look at what the question was what's wrong with the world? I am. If you can take a step back and say that you're part of the problem in the world, maybe you can do something to make a change. But as long as you want to continue to point a finger, you're not getting anywhere. You're not changing anything. You're not fixing anything. You don't really care. You just want to point a finger and make it somebody else's problem and not really solve anything. And if you don't want to solve anything, all you want to do is point a finger, then why'd you go into politics? Why'd you become a representative of our great nation? Do better. And all y'all stop jumping on the bandwagon, man. All of us, as just regular, normal citizens who aren't politicians, why don't we just stop jumping on their bandwagon, stop giving them all the support, stop giving them all the hype they need, stop giving them all the attention, stop giving them all the hype. And remember what this world's really about. Remember what this nation is really about. That's your boy. I hope I gave you a little bit to think about and just to marinate on. It just really saddens me to know where we're at, where we've come, and what we should be. Not attacking one another, that's for sure. It's your boy, and I'm out.